The United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense latest intelligence update on Ukraine, August 30, 2023. The conviction of 2 Russian soldiers to penal colonies for refusing to return to the front lines in Ukraine highlights the dire state of morale among Russian troops. Since July, around 100 Russian soldiers have been convicted weekly for refusing to fight. If this alarming trend continues, we can expect over 5,000 refusals annually. This staggering number reveals the widespread reluctance and lack of motivation among Russian forces. Troops face inadequate training, intense stress, and harrowing conditions along the front. Although some soldiers bravely refuse to fight, Russia seems to offset these losses by flooding the front lines with masses of poorly prepared recruits. Since September 2022's partial mobilization, Russia has pivoted to a strategy of overwhelming Ukraine with sheer numbers for offensive and defensive maneuvers. While this approach provides personnel, it cannot substitute for strong morale, tactical skill, and belief in one's cause. Russia's dependence on quantitative advantage over qualitative superiority will continue to undermine its invading forces. Ukrainian General Staff Intelligence Update. Day 553 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine continues. Over the past 24 hours, Russia conducted missile and air strikes across Ukraine, firing 28 cruise missiles and 15 Shahed-136 and Shahed-131 kamikaze drones. Ukraine's air defenses intercepted and destroyed all incoming missiles and drones. Throughout August 30th, Russia launched 30 missile strikes, 52 air strikes, and 35 multiple launch rocket system attacks against Ukrainian forces and civilian areas. Russian attacks killed and wounded civilians, damaging homes and infrastructure. The threat of further strikes remains high. There were 35 engagements between Ukrainian and Russian forces. Zaporizhzhia and Slobozhanshina axes. Russia struck Volfine Sumy and Podikhanov Kharkiv. Over 20 settlements shelled, including in Chernihiv and Sumy oblasts. Kupiansk axis. Airstrike near Kislivka, Kharkiv. Shelling of settlements in Kharkiv Oblast, Lyman axis, failed Russian offensives near Novozhehorivka and Bilohorivka, Luhansk. Airstrikes and shelling across the axis, including on Kremina, Luhansk and Lyman, Donetsk. Bakhmut axis, failed attack near Kurdyumivka, Donetsk. Airstrikes and artillery fire impacting over 20 settlements, including Teretsik and Chasiv Yar. Avdiivka axis, Russian shelling of many towns in Donetsk Oblast. Marinka axis, Ukraine continues holding back Russian offensive near Marinka, Donetsk, shelling across the axis. Shakhtarzyhsky axis, Ukraine repelled assaults near Staromayorski, Donetsk. Air and artillery strikes by Russia across the axis. Zaporizhzhia axis, failed Russian offensive near Mala Tokmachka, Zaporizhzhia. Widespread strikes and shelling across the axis and into Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Kherson axis, over 20 settlements shelled by Russian forces. Ukraine continues offensive operations near Melitopol, consolidating gains. On August 30th, Ukraine's Air Force conducted 10 airstrikes on Russian troop concentrations and 4 on air defense systems. Ukraine's artillery and missiles struck Russian command posts, troops, and electronic warfare assets. Despite Russia's advantage in quantity of forces, Ukraine maintains the qualitative edge. The Institute for the Study of War Russian Offensive Campaign Assessment. Ukrainian forces conducted a major drone strike on a key Russian airbase in Pskov Oblast overnight on August 29 to 30. Ukraine's military intelligence claims the attack destroyed 4 Russian Il-76 transport aircraft and possibly damaged 2 others at the base. Geolocated footage and Russian sources confirm at least 2 Il-76s were destroyed. Per Russian military bloggers, over 20 Ukrainian drones targeted the base. The scale of the operation suggests a deliberate effort to degrade Russia's strategic airlift capabilities. In response, Russian air defenses were activated across multiple oblasts. The Russian Ministry of Defense and Moscow mayor claimed drones were intercepted over Oryol, Tula, Voronezh, Ryazan, Kaluga, Bryansk, and Moscow. The widespread activations likely indicate Russia initially believed Ukraine intended to strike Moscow or its surrounding region. Russian forces seem to have focused defenses on the capital, enabling the Pskov strike to penetrate. Drones downed en route to Moscow or Pskov were likely part of the broader operation, not separate efforts to attack multiple targets. The daring raid highlights Ukraine's ability to penetrate and precision strike high-value strategic targets deep in Russian-held territory. Russia's vaunted air defenses proved inadequate against Ukraine's ingenuity. With its transport aircraft degraded, Russia will struggle to sustain the tempo of its offensive campaign. The blow could prove a turning point in the war's strategic course. Institute for the Study of War Key Takeaways today. Russian propagandists and military bloggers criticized Russian forces for failing to defend Russian land and facilities. They also criticized recent censorship efforts by Russia's Ministry of Defense. Last night, Russia conducted widespread missile and drone strikes on Kyiv, likely in retaliation for Ukraine's strikes on Moscow and Pskov. Ukrainian light infantry, probably reconnaissance troops, infiltrated east of Russian trenches near Verbov as of August 30th. The Kremlin has tried silencing or confusing reports on the death of Wagner Group financier Yevgeny Prigozhin. This suggests the Kremlin remains concerned about Prigozhin's popularity in Russia and with Wagner forces. Some Russian officials may be probing military bloggers' views on Prigozhin to identify and censor ultranationalists not tied to him or Wagner. Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov again declared loyalty to Vladimir Putin on August 30th, distancing himself from the Wagner Group. On August 30th, Russian forces conducted attacks along the Kupiansk-Svatov-Kremina line, near Bakhmut, around Avdiivka Donetsk city, the Donetsk-Zaporizhzhia border, and in western Zaporizhzhia. Russia reportedly gained ground. Ukraine counterattacked along at least two sectors on August 30th, making gains near Bakhmut, the Donetsk-Zaporizhzhia border, and western Zaporizhzhia. Russia's defense ministry is reportedly banning Wagner Group soldiers from fighting in Ukraine. The Crimean partisan group Atesh claimed its members exploded a bomb at United Russia's campaign office in occupied Novokakhovka on August 29.